There is a pattern quietly draining the financial security of people who look, from the outside, like they have everything under control. And right now, it may be happening to someone you admire. On a gray Wednesday morning in the market town of Halford, the finest bakery on the high street locked its doors for the last time, with 11 months of short-term credit still unpaid, including the loan that had funded the gilded sign above the door that read, "Established. Trusted. Here to stay." Everyone saw the sign. Nobody saw the debt. What you are about to understand is why the most financially fragile households and businesses around you are often the ones you have been quietly envying, and what the person nobody photographs is doing completely differently. 2 streets away. Still open. It started 6 years before the first creditor called, on the morning Garrett Hollins first decided his bakery needed a better front window. Garrett had genuine talent. That was never the problem. Garrett's bread was good. That part was never in dispute. His sourdough had developed a following before his first year was out, and his pastries, buttery, precise, gone from the case by mid-morning, were the reason people walked the extra block to reach him rather than stopping at the larger chain closer to the market. But Garrett had a sensitivity to how things looked. Not vanity exactly, something deeper and harder to name. A conviction, never fully examined, that the appearance of success was not merely decoration but a necessary component of success itself. That customers judged a baker by his shopfront before they ever tasted the bread. That if you looked like the best, enough people would assume you were, and stay long enough to find out you actually were. The new window cost more than he had. He financed it. The first renovation. A new display window, wide and clear, framing his pastries like paintings in a gallery. He financed it on a short-term credit line, 3 months revenue at current rates. The window did bring in new customers. Foot traffic from the high street improved noticeably. Garrett filed that fact away as confirmation of his theory. Investment in appearance yields return. The second renovation, 18 months later. New exterior signage, hand-painted gilded letters on dark wood. The credit line from the window now fully rolled into a larger one. The third year, a marble display counter, staff in matching aprons he'd had embroidered, and a new oven, imported, efficient, and expensive enough to mention in conversation. Each piece of credit stacked against the last, payment dates pushed forward, the total growing in the background at a pace Garrett did not track as closely as he tracked the response of customers. The local paper called him Halford's most ambitious shopkeeper. The townspeople noticed. They talked. Visitors were directed to his shop first. A local feature ran with a photograph of Garrett standing in front of the gilded sign, arms folded, smiling. He kept a copy behind the counter. Nobody photographed Miriam. 2 streets away, on a lane the visitors rarely found, Miriam Webb had opened her bakery the same year as Garrett. Nobody photographed her. Her front was plain, whitewashed render, one modest shelf in the window, a sign she had made herself with paint she already owned. Her bread was also very good. Her prices were fair. But Miriam had grown up watching her father's grocery close in a single difficult season because a loan he'd held for 8 years could not survive 3 bad months. She had taken one lesson from that, and she had never once put it down. You cannot outrun a cash flow problem with a good reputation. She bought what she could afford. She waited to buy the rest. She improved things, but slowly. 1 addition per year. Paid for before the next was considered. She kept her fixed costs low and her credit lines empty. Each month, after expenses, she transferred a fixed amount, not large but fixed, into a reserve account she did not touch. Not to invest, not to spend, just to hold against the day when something went wrong. Because something always went wrong eventually. The council said 6 to 8 weeks. It lasted 14. In early spring of Garrett's 6th year, the town council announced that the gas main beneath the high street required replacement. A section of the road would be closed. Scaffolding, temporary barriers, restricted pedestrian access to the row of shops that included Garrett's bakery. 6 to 8 weeks, they estimated. Minor disruption. It lasted 14 weeks. Foot traffic, down more than half. Fixed costs, unchanged. Garrett's foot traffic collapsed. Not declined, collapsed. Down more than half by week 2. He kept his staff, kept his fixed overheads, kept the credit service payments arriving on schedule. He applied to his lender for a short extension. They reviewed his file, credit lines fully drawn, no meaningful cash reserves, revenue now severely reduced and declined. He applied to a second institution. Same review, same answer. Beautiful, empty. Oh, by week 10, the options had closed. His accountant sat across from him in the marble-countered shop, the oven humming, the gilded sign visible through the window, and explained, without drama, that the numbers no longer supported continued operation. Miriam's lane was not on the construction route. Her foot traffic fell somewhat, the town was quieter overall. But she had 8 months of operating expenses sitting in a reserve account. She shortened her hours slightly, reduced one supplier order, and waited. When the barriers came down in week 14, she was still there. She heard through ordinary town channels that Garrett's display cases and oven were being sold at auction to cover the outstanding debt. She attended. She bought the oven. This is not a story about bakers. Now here is what most people never realize. This story is not about Garrett or Miriam. It is not about gilded signs or road construction or a market town with a narrow lane off the high street. It is about the colleague in your office who drives the newest car, took the best vacation last year, and mentioned the home renovation twice in the same week, and who called in absent on a Thursday morning while the rest of you were answering emails because something with the finances had finally given way. The most impressive house on the street, and 9 days of cash reserves. It is about the house at the end of your street with the fresh extension, the new landscaping, the windows that gleam on a sunny afternoon, and the family inside carrying 4 maxed-out credit lines, a home equity loan drawn down to fund a kitchen, and less than 2 weeks of liquid savings. The appearance of financial security is one of the most powerful illusions in ordinary life. We are wired deeply instinctively to read visible signals. The car, the clothes, the renovated kitchen, the gilded sign. We read these signals as evidence of stability beneath them, and the people displaying those signals are often reading the same signals from each other, running on the same rolling credit, anchored by the same unexamined belief that looking successful creates the conditions for continued success. It does, until one bad quarter arrives. It does until it doesn't. One disruption, 14 weeks of reduced income, a medical bill, a job loss, a supplier increase, and the structure is exposed. Not weakened by the disruption, exposed by it. The fragility was always there. The renovation simply made it harder to see. Appearances are not evidence of stability. What researchers who study household finance call the wealth facade, the gap between how financially stable someone appears and how financially stable they actually are, has grown consistently over the past 2 decades. Consumer debt instruments have become cheaper, faster, and more socially normalized. Buy now, pay later schemes, renovation financing, rolling credit lines, personal loans with extended terms. The tools for constructing an impressive front have never been more available or more invisible to people observing from the outside. Research from multiple financial health surveys consistently finds that a large share of households earning above-average incomes carry fewer than 30 days of expenses in liquid savings. They are not saving less because they earn less. They are saving less because the spending required to maintain their visible position has grown to consume the margin that reserves require. The margin that reserves require. The first truth this exposes: liquid cash reserves are the true measure of financial stability, and they are completely invisible from the outside. You cannot tell by looking at a home, a car, a renovation, or a shopfront whether the person who owns it has 3 months or 3 days of financial resilience beneath it. Garrett's marble counter told you nothing about his reserve account. Miriam's whitewash told you nothing about hers. The only number that mattered when the disruption arrived was the one nobody had ever asked about. Short-term credit used for appearances is not investment. It is debt. The second truth: short-term credit used repeatedly for non-income generating purchases is not ambition. It is consumption brought forward. Every time Garrett borrowed to renovate, he was not building an asset that would pay him back. He was borrowing against future revenue to fund a present appearance. The marble counter could not generate its own income. The gilded sign could not service its own loan. And when future revenue fell short, the debt did not care what the renovation had looked like. It simply remained. 3 honest starting points. None of what follows requires a financial advisor or a complicated system. These are the things Miriam could have explained to you over the counter briefly without drama. First, run an honest audit of what your credit has been buying. Did this generate income or generate appearance? Pull your last 12 months of credit card statements and financing arrangements. For each significant item, ask one question. Did this purchase generate income or did it generate appearance? Not every appearance expenditure is wrong. There are legitimate professional and social reasons to invest in how things look. But doing this audit honestly once tends to surface one or two recurring patterns that most people were not consciously aware of. The renovation that was for value, but has not been tested by an actual sale. The car that was for client meetings, but mostly sits outside the house. Naming these clearly is the beginning of changing them. Second, set a reserve target and build toward it in fixed monthly increments. Not a lump sum, a fixed monthly transfer. Every month. Many financial educators suggest a minimum of 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses held in a liquid, accessible account. Not invested, not committed to anything, simply available. For self-employed people and small business owners, the suggestion is often higher, 6 to 12 months of operating costs. This number tends to feel overwhelming when first calculated. Build toward it in fixed increments, a set transfer on payday before anything discretionary is touched, rather than waiting until you can fund it all at once. Miriam did not build 8 months of reserves overnight. She built them the same way she built everything else. One fixed, undramatic contribution at a time for years. Third, separate what you appear to be from what you actually are, deliberately and regularly. Both can be good businesses. Only one survives a bad quarter. This is not a call to live modestly for its own sake. Some investments in appearance generate genuine returns, in business, in career, in life. The question is whether those choices are being made consciously or reflexively. Many people find that simply asking, "Am I doing this because I can genuinely afford it, or because I am tracking what someone else has?" is enough to interrupt the pattern. Not every time, but often enough to matter. Garrett was not a bad businessman. He was a talented baker who had never been asked to separate the signal from the substance, who had never been told that the sign and the stability beneath it are two entirely different things, and that only one of them matters when the road closes for 14 weeks. The quietest shop on the lane is sometimes the strongest. Miriam's bakery is still open. The front is still plain. A few years after the road construction, she added a second oven, the one she had bought at Garrett's auction, and extended her hours on Saturdays. She never had a sign made with gilded letters. Financial stability is invisible from the outside. That's exactly the point. The lesson is not that beautiful things are dangerous. The lesson is that genuine financial security does not announce itself. The reserve account nobody can see. The credit lines left empty. The fixed monthly transfer made before the discretionary spending begins. None of these make for a photograph anyone wants to take. All of them make for a household and a business that is still standing when 14 weeks of disruption arrives without warning. The question is not what your finances look like from the outside. The question is what they are when something goes wrong. If the story changed the way you see someone you used to envy, subscribe to the Money Parable. A new financial parable every week, and it will not let you look at money the same way twice.